What's up, everybody? Coming at you here with a brand new tier list video. Today we will be ranking the letters of the English lexicon. Just a brief note before
I'm
we get
Ralph, and
started.
that's my buddy Alpha Kittens. And yeah, like he said, today we're ranking the English alphabet. So this tier list is going to be controversial, but we don't shy away from the hot takes. So if you want to see more of this alphabet content, or just any of our other content, hit that like button down below, give it a thumbs up, and click the subscribe button and hit that bell. I feel so dirty saying those words.
Oh, the dirtiest. Just a brief note before we get started. This is actually quite important. Regarding this letter right here, we will not be using this inferior form. We will instead be regarding the Z form that has the cross through the center as it should.
I disagree, but it's his video.
Indeed.
Okay.
So,
Starting off, we gotta get this. We're not going in order. We're not going in alphabetical order.
no, I don't think we should. What do you say we get started with the vowels to give us a bit of a framework?
No. I think we just start with the obvious ones. We put the two of them in the delete here, right?
All right, we put the two of them into
and
the delete,
C.
B and the C.
So, Alpha here and I have long disagreed about which letter in the English alphabet is worse. I think it's C. He thinks it's B. We both agree that the two worst ones, though, they are going in the bottom tier. There is no argument there. Within each tier, we are not ranking the letters because we will never disagree on that. We have thought about this for many years. Okay.
Alphabetical within each tier.
Alphabetical within each tier. A.
A.
So you think A is the best letter in the English alphabet?
I do think A is the best letter in the alphabet. It's a vowel. Vowels are great.
Vowels are clutch. I would put A high tier, maybe top tier, but it's solid. We'll leave it in top tier for now.
All right, we could always move it down if necessary. But the thing about A is that if you compare it to all the other vowels, right? You got E. E is just way too big for its britches.
E is overrated.
Yeah, way too overrated. I is solid, but it just has nothing on A. O.
It's got nothing. I's just got nothing to it.
Yeah.
It's there, and that's the best thing you can say about it.
And O really hasn't got personality, if you ask me.
Same. Yeah, I know suffer from the same problem. You ask me. They're both there. They're both solid. They do what they're supposed to do. But that's the best thing you can say about them. They do their job.
Yeah, and of course U doesn't compare with A.
Why is not fully a vowel? And it's got that spark. It's got that playfulness to it. But we're not ranking vowels. We're ranking letters.
Yes.
We'll leave A in top tier for now. We can move it down to high tier if we want later. D. D is mid at best. I would put it lower mid for now.
We will always disagree about this. I think that D is an upper mid tier, but I think that, there's perhaps some personal bias here. I think mid is probably fair.
Good.
Yeah, as hard consonants go, there are definitely better ones, but it's not as bad as some others. For example, B and C.
A solid mid tier. And there's nothing bad about being mid tier, right? Mid tier letters are fine. They're fine. It's not till you get to lower, mid, low, or delete tier that you really got flaws. So let's go to E.
Let us.
Again, as we said, E, way too big for its britches, overrated as all hell, and you gotta knock it down a few pegs. Where would you put E?
See, I think that if we're gonna give E any amount of respect for the complete necessity of it, I think we have to put it in mid tier, but honestly, I could see it as a lower mid, just to put it in its place. Maybe an
You cannot put E higher than mid.
I would absolutely agree. Yeah, no, this is just going to be an insult to other letters that we're going to be putting in upper mid most likely. So, E, it's a mid tier at best. I think we'll probably have some lower mids, and E is probably ekes out those.
Okay.
Speaking of lower mids, I think that O belongs there.
Yeah, O's not.
It's either here or here, to be sure.
Yeah, O's not great. O's not a good one.
We'll drop it in lower mid. Maybe we'll move it down later.
We'll drop it in lower mid. We'll move it down later if we need. F, this is going to be one of our more controversial opinions, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of F, but personal bias does not get in the way of this objective ranking tier list.
Yeah. Here's the thing. F can be great.
When was the last time you used an F?
Yeah. In some situations, it can be a really beautiful letter, but in other cases, I mean, you just think about PH, it just it lacks that same level of
Yeah,
pizzazz, if you ask me.
F is one of those letters that, like, F is a fun sound for sure, but PH is just a better version of F in every single
It's
way.
classier.
And it's classier. When you are that easily replaced, and don't get me wrong when we get to K, the same argument does not hold for K. Absolutely not. Okay, we're just gonna say that in advance,
Hmm.
and we're gonna drop it.
Yeah, I think F goes here in lower mid. It has its moments.
Lower.
I'd keep it out of low, but I mean, really, it's just not all that special.
Yeah. G's an interesting one. G's an interesting one.
Yeah, G's an interesting pick. Personally, I could go for some
I think we're gonna put
G's.
it in mid.
I think I would put that in mid as well. I think it's a solid letter, but again, there's nothing really special about it. I think mid is a pretty fair assessment of this bad boy. H, on the
Okay,
other
this
hand,
next letter is one that we have disagreed on for years.
yeah,
H is one of my 5 favorite letters in the English alphabet.
H is a solid letter, and if I had my way, D would be above H. And if Ropier had his way, H would probably be a lot higher. But I think that through some deliberation, we've generally settled on upper mid for H. It's a solid letter.
There is nothing bad about H. You can't say a single bad thing about H.
Well, the thing about H is that it doesn't really get enough love. I mean, there are plenty of words where H is just completely overlooked for other letters that will likely be a lot lower on the tier list and perhaps some controversial opinions.
H is a fun letter. It's often overlooked, often made silent, but it can also completely change the game. You got sh, you got f, you got ch. It can completely change the game. Right? H can do something magical, and that's that it can redeem C if they are combined.
I totally agree. It's also got all that magic with G. I mean, that's just a solid combo right there. In fact, I think you've talked me up. I'd be willing to put it in high tier. It's really underappreciated.
H is way too underappreciated.
High tier?
High tier for sure.
All right.
I. As we talked about, I and O, very similar letters. They both do what they're supposed to do, and not much else. I think I is worse than O. Because O, you can get some fun combinations. You can get OA, OO, rarely OE. I, you can't do anything with.
Yeah, but the thing
AI,
about no,
and
you got
that's
to think
it.
about I from this perspective. I mean, I has this sick combination that's brought up from Latin. I mean, you think about words like radii. I mean, that's a pretty solid thing that I don't think many letters can really boast. And I also find that
That
I
is
has a better
true, and
sound.
that is one of I's few saving graces is that double I. When you get that double I, oh boy, is that a good day! And when you get a pluralization of a word that ends with an I, that that is a fun one. That is a fun time.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
don't know. I think that if it were just kind of its sound and function alone, it might be lower mid here with O. I'm not really sure where they would rank relative to each other, but I gotta say, this extra edge case, I think it bumps it up to mid.
I think yeah. I mean, it is a very rare edge case, but it's a very fun one, and I think on average it does help a lot. All right, J.
J.
You do not like J anywhere near as much as I do.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, when they first think about J, I mean, they just think about the sound it makes and they get kind of, that little crinkly face. I don't know. That's what I thought about it when I
I
first started
disagree.
to
I
consider
say
this.
J. I say J, and I just feel it. Like J is not. Okay, let me pause. Can I just be real for a second? J is. I hate that I love it because J could be so much more. I hate the French language with a passion that rivals all my other passions. But the one thing they get right is that French J, that je, is just such a good sound. And if RJ could do that, it would be so better. The J we have is an imperfect version, and it's mocking us with what it could be. Upper mid.
Upper mid.
That's my J.
It might
That's
be
my.
mid, but I mean it looks like a candy cane, so we got to give it some love.
That's like a candy cane that gives it. Okay. K.
Okay, so
Obviously, one of the best
here's
letters.
where we gotta harken back to our old friend C. So we talked a little bit about replaceability when it comes to some other letters like F, and C definitely falls victim to this because when you think about C and you think about K, I mean K, it's just it's a lot more
So
solid,
you
it's a
might
lot
say,
more
yeah. So
crisp.
the initial thought is, oh, well, why can't you just replace all your K's with just C's? It'd be the same, right? So why does K not have the same problem with F? The answer is because C's a garbage letter. C's terrible. If I had to replace, right, thick, Thicc, like how the kids are saying it, gross. Double C, that's not work. It's not a good combination. K, it's got a thankless job. It supports C when no one else wants to, because you can't end a word with a hard C. It's got that angular look. I mean, just look at the letter.
It's a beauty. It's a
It's
beauty.
it's got it all going on visually. It's what C wishes it could be. I mean, anytime I say a hard C, I am saying it with a K. It's just so fun.
I could not have put it better myself, and I have to shout out a couple of the words where there's a K and no C that really make the letter K shine. I mean, the one that comes to mind right now, just think about the word Kraken. I mean, could you imagine
Oh,
how much less intimidating the Kraken would be if you
if
spelled
you
it with
spell it with a
any number
C,
of C's? Yeah, could you just imagine? I mean, you wouldn't have the sailors quaking in their boots. Quaking, that's another letter with K. I mean, if you just replace the K with the C, you practically get quacking. I mean, C just ruins every single word that it's in where you could just have a K. I think
right?
it's
Like,
high tier,
yes,
maybe top tier.
K is under K is tragically underutilized in the English language. There is no denying it. But anytime you see a K, you ask yourself, if you're one of those people who like C and don't like K, you say, well, why can't I just replace every time I see a K with a C? Well, it's the same. C's got the double usage. It gets the K sound and the S sound. It's the perfect letter. Get out of my house! Right? Anytime you see a K, try replacing it with a C. You've ruined the word. You have ruined the word, my friend.
What are you
There is a
thinking?
reason. There's a reason that anytime you try to learn from Greek, you use a K. It looks better. It is better. I would put K top tier, right with A, but high tier at the lowest.
Absolutely. When it comes to comparing these two, I think that A is just superb. I think that A is a better letter than K, but I do think I could absolutely see them in the same tier. They're just stellar letters. It would not be the same language without these two to make it special.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, people. It's, it, it's like, sure, would the English language be fine without K? I guess it would be worse. But it doesn't matter about functionality. It's the little, perhaps unnecessary things that make things beautiful. K is one of the most beautiful letters we have. Do we need it? No. Are we way better with it? Yes. L.
L. L is special because L is one of the easiest letters to say, and it's also got one of the best aesthetically pleasing doubles, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings on L are very simple. There's very little bad you can say about L. It's a good one. It's a good. That's about it. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't. I don't have like intense feelings for L like I do K, but there is nothing bad that I could physically say about L. There
exactly.
isn't.
That's the thing. It's like there's not much great you could say about it, but it's just so easy. It's impossible to love, it's impossible to dislike. So I definitely think this is going somewhere in the mid-range, and I think that to place it best, we should compare it to the other consonants in here, that being D and G. I
It
have
is
stronger feelings for
better
D.
than
You
D
know
and G.
this.
It's softer. It's weird. It's like a softer consonant, and I like it better. But what about you?
Uh, I think I could understand you considering it objectively better, but I don't think it's a whole tier of difference. I mean, putting it in
That is
upper mid
very
next to
fair.
J, I mean, that means it has the same level of personality. I just don't think it's all that special. I think mid is where it's
That's
gonna
true.
live.
Although I would state that I do think it is a whole tier higher than I.
Uh, yeah,
I
I
feel
would
like
consider moving I
I
lower.
feel like putting L here really shows that we have overrated I.
Yeah, you know what? I'd be willing to move I down. I would also consider in that case moving F down because I is just vastly superior to F. No, F has its
There's
moments.
a little too much F hate. F's got its moments.
Yeah,
It's got its moments.
I can't deny
Um,
that.
but we can do the reorganization later. For now, we are halfway through, and you know what that means, guys. It is time for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I don't like saying that.
M.
Okay, I feel like we have to look at M and N as a pairing. Really, right?
Um, I
Right.
disagree, in fact. I think that it's very easy to lump them in the same way, but M has a lot smoother of a feel, if you ask me.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
like it.
it's like what
I
B
like
kind
N
of
better
wants to
than N.
be.
Oh, we've talked about this before. N is better than N as a
Yes.
letter.
Yes.
It's just the two of them. They're fine, right? They're fine, but you know they almost cancel each other out. Anything special about one of them? It's like you've got twins, right? You've got these identical twin siblings or near identical twin siblings. No one can tell them apart. So you get very few people who are friends with one who aren't friends with the other. And one of them might be great, but you don't want to have two copies of the same friend. And
Yeah.
so it kind of makes it a whole investment to be friends with them because you can't be friends with one without being friends with the other. And maybe you just want to invite one to your birthday party, but you can't do that.
Yeah, really just the presence of both. I think it makes it very difficult for either one of them to shine individually. I
They can't
certainly
shine
don't think
individually
it's
because
upper
the
mid.
other one drags it down. N is better. Like, like
Yeah.
when it comes to twins, right? Like obviously you have the one you like better, but one can't shine while the other one is still there.
How would we compare
That's
these
all I
two
gotta
to
say.
L? Because I think that the three of these are all very easy. But
Yeah, Elemento, like they might be trying soft and said, Elemento, four letters, not one. They had to write a whole song reminding you that these were not blurred together. Because it's so easy to do so. But
but
for
I mean,
love L,
even the song, it barely blurs the line between blurring them together. It's just they all have that
I mean,
similar feel.
the song is called Elemento, and it goes, Elemento are four letters, not one. And it's like, sure. Let me go L, L, M, L, M, N, Elemento. And it's like, no, you're not helping your case. But all that to say, I would put M and N, I would put, they have to be the same tier, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put it in lower mid, maybe mid if we're being generous. I think L carries the, if we consider Elemento as a grouping, L carries the weight. It gives it that oomph. It makes it memorable. M and O, they're just there. Lower mid.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that if they were considered as a unit, L would absolutely carry the group. But with just M and N, I mean, you compare it to stuff like G and D, and I mean, those are solid letters. They're not the most
Solid letters.
outstanding of letters. That's what mid tier is all about. But I don't think that these
They
guys
don't
are
take risks. They
average.
don't take risks. They don't take
These two
risks,
don't
so they're
take
okay.
risks. These
They're
two,
fine. You know, Jay takes a risk. It
hmm
doesn't really pay off, but we reward it. AKH, they're a great letter. The mid tier, they don't take risks and they're fine. Lower mid, same thing except worse. Right?
I
There's nothing
absolutely.
bad. There is nothing bad about being lower mid. Can we just reiterate this. The lower mid letters are fine. They're fine. I use them all the time. A lot of my words contain them.
Yeah, I just have to agree. Lower mid, we have to make this clear. Lower mid is not an insult. Mid is average. Lower mid is slightly below average. Maybe you took a risk and you failed, or maybe you just have a complete lack of personality, like in the case of O, or maybe you're a little bit replaceable, but still have your moments like F. That's really what lower mid is all about. These are all fine letters. There's nothing wrong with them. That's what low and this tier we shall not name is for. But yeah, lower mid. P, I think this is going to be our first hot take here. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think P's a low tier.
Not our first hot take. Oh, okay, you're putting it there. That is probably one of the hotter takes we have. I think we've got some hot takes. We got K placed very highly, F placed very lowly. Those are going to ruffle some feathers, not going to lie. I think putting P where you want, which I don't disagree with. I don't completely disagree with. I like P a lot, but there is not much to say about it. It is not much in his favor.
I will say, as hard consonants go, this is probably the worst.
Right?
Except for B and C, of course.
D in the slightest. But D is everything P wishes it could be. I mean, look at it. P is like D if you stuck a thing on the bottom. It is half the D. It is half the letter D ever could be.
I mean, yeah, you just think about it, right? Look at it. P, it's right between B and D, and you can just see the correlation in the way it's written. And I mean, you compare it to F. I mean, I know we talked about PH, but like we said about by putting H in high tier, that's really just H taking anything it's in and just going beyond.
Yeah.
It takes it to another level.
H is the seasoning of the alphabet, right? Any word you got, adding an H makes it a better word. Almost any word.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about H, we're talking about P. So yeah, PH is fantastic. One of my favorite letter combinations. Perhaps one of the best.
I would use the word phenomenal over fantastic, but...
Phenomenal. It is phenomenal. But that is H all the way. None of that is P. P's not doing any of that. So yeah.
Yeah, we can't let P take credit for any of H's work. I think it's a step below F. I think it's multiple steps below D and G. I think this is where it belongs. And, I mean, I think we're going to get hate for this. I'm sure that a lot of you guys right there, you will flip your lids at this. I know that there are a lot of people who just stand by P, but no, we're being objective about this. And comparing it to everything else that's above it, it just doesn't measure up.
This tier list is not meant to make, this tier list is not meant to coddle you. This tier list is meant to be correct.
Give you the truth.
Alright. Here's another controversial one. We're up to Q.
You could go a lot of ways on Q. I mean, there are some people who, when they first look at this, they might put it here.
In my opinion, no two tier list could possibly agree on Q. It is such an out there letter.
And you know what? The fact that you mentioned that it's out there right now, it makes me think that it belongs with J. It's really a similar.
I think that's fair. They're both rare. You don't see them very often. Anytime you do see them, you smile a little to yourself. You say, huh, there's a Q. Huh, there's a J. Huh. You know, any word you've got with a Q or a J, that's a good word.
Mm-hmm. Solid and Scrabble.
I do think it's a little needy with its whole U thing. That I wish it didn't have. It does drag it down a bit because Q has got all the potential of K. They got very similar vibes and sounds. It's a neediness. Its rarity helps it. Its neediness on U and other vowels just drags it down. No. Q never has a chance to shine. Anytime it does, you get a word. Any word Q in the middle. That is one of those are great words. They're just not enough.
I gotta say though, I mean, when we talked about J, you mentioned French and how there are some other languages that do it much better. I mean, French, it's got the je, that's just a spicy sound. Q, I mean, in other languages, I don't think there's as much of a dependence on the letter U. It's just, English, it kind of doesn't really let Q live up to its full potential, but it's a solid sound. Like you said, you smile when you see it. I think it belongs in the same tier as J.
I agree. I agree.
Alright,
Okay.
next one, I think this is really simple. There's no way we are not putting this in top tier.
Alright. I was 3 years old when I decided R, the 18th letter of the English alphabet, was my favorite letter of the English alphabet. To clarify, my name does not start with an R.
Nor does mine. I rank it third.
There's a reason I go by rote, and that is because R is great. It's got, just like H, you can improve all the vowels by adding an R. It's so egalitarian. It's a fun sound. You don't get R. R is one of those sounds you don't get. You can't mimic an R with other letters in the English alphabet, right? R is just you say an R and no one. You say and no one thinks you said a different sound. It's just solid. It's just nothing bad to say about R. It's just all the way perfect.
Well,
it's my pick for top letter. I know yours is A. We disagreed about this previous.
yes.
But there is nothing bad you can say about R. R cannot go anywhere but top tier.
Well, I will say that there is one gripe I have with the letter R. There is a singular one I do not think in the slightest that it moves it down. Like I said, R is my third favorite letter, but we gotta be honest here. R, it has a singular issue, and that's that English treats it differently from every single other language, almost. Other languages, they like to roll the R, or it sounds a little bit like a or like a D, and that kind of conditions some English speakers into not really saying it the right way. It's just that one little thing.
I think that's to art's benefit.
I agree. Right? I think that it's an amazing concept.
We talked about J, we talked about Q. Other languages do them better. Other languages give them more. R, I think, is the one letter English does best. Every other language is it's too soft, it's too passive. It's fine, it's there. But if we were ranking the French letters, R would not be high. But you go to English and you got you got it's got flavor, it's got it's there, it's passion. It is the one letter, in my opinion, English does better.
You know what? I totally agree. I mean, my point was about that it conditions people to say it the wrong way. But you know what? This is the right way. This is the optimal form of R. R absolutely belongs here, and I don't think there's anything bad we can say about it. It's just a fantastic letter. Very few drawbacks, and that's what top tier is all about. Really just the best of the best. And while we're talking about that...
This is the good part of the alphabet. Q to T...
Solid picks.
Solid.
Now, if I had it my way, I think we'd drop S right here in top tier. I mean, there's a whole tier named after the letter S. I think Rope here might prefer to put it in high tier. I don't know what your thoughts on that are entirely. But I don't know. I think S is kind of similar to R. I mean, its combo with H, fantastic. And it's not just the H that time. They complement each other beautifully. And S is part of what lets H really shine, if you know what I'm saying, right? S is a really easy letter to say. So many things rely on it. It's really such a beautiful letter. I can't help but want to put it in S tier, top tier. It's my second favorite letter.
S is easy to love, man. S is a solid letter, right? Is it, in my opinion, as good as R? No. Is it one of the best letters? Absolutely. Feel free to put it top tier.
All right, I will gladly.
But on that subject, now let's go to T.
T.
T is so ever so slightly overrated. T is by far one of the best consonants out there, one of the best harder on the spectrum. It's not as hard as T, but it's one of the harder consonants, one of the best harder consonants.
I'd have to agree.
It's got a fun combination with H, just like S. The T combination with H is kind of fun, because you can really see the T shining through, which you don't get with letters like Pierce, C. I just think it's slightly overrated. I would drop it in high tier.
I was about to say the same thing. I mean, when you think about TH, I feel like that's really just the perfect combination of both those letters. T, fantastic consonant, but a top tier, I don't think so. But really, we can't justify putting it any lower than high tier. It's just a great consonant, but maybe just a little bit overrated. And that's what high tier is all about. H is massively underrated. T, a little bit overrated, but both of them find this kind of happy medium here in high tier, where they vastly outclass a lot of the letters here in mid tier, but maybe not the best of the best.
Maybe not the best. Very well said. You.
You.
God damn.
We were doing so well with those vowels.
We were. And then.
And you. It came. It went. It did. It saw. You is just. It's just not the best. I don't have very strong positive feelings about it. It has one saving grace, and that's the double U. There are two U's in the word vacuum, and that's literally the only spark of personality it has to it. I mean, O has the fun ooh sound. It works with itself pretty well. U, it just lacks that extra factor.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, you see, it's so hard to talk about because it doesn't lack personality. I mean, the letters that lack personality tended to go in lower mid. U has a personality, but I really don't think it works. It doesn't work for me. I don't see it at all. Personally, I would want to put that in low tier. I think it's worse than O.
We are marketing this as a completely objective fearless. And it is, but the one of the few bits of trepidation we have. U is a controversial letter, and we accept that some people might have different opinions on U to our own. But we have to be true to ourselves and the truth. And yeah.
So, you think in low, or do you think we could get away with putting it in lower mid?
I mean, you said something shortly before we started this video, it was very prescient. It's that no vowel can be low tier. And are you still standing by that?
You know what? I think you're right. There's no such thing as a low tier vowel.
There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
They all gotta do so much. Can we really blame you? Yes, we can, but we can't blame it that much.
Yeah, and we get that this might be controversial. I mean, there might be a couple people out there who really just adore this letter. I mean, I can kind of sort of grasp it, but really, it doesn't have the smoothness that I has, or the incredible usefulness that E has.
Since it is the smoothest of the vowels, say perhaps visually. Visually, it's great. It just doesn't have. There's nothing going on after that. Once you get past the looks.
Mm-hmm.
It's all style and those things.
All right. I think that that's the proper specimen. You're right. I don't think that there are any vowels that belong in low tier. Now let's talk about V.
Let's talk about V. We're into the rare boys, right? Ignoring Y. Not even ignoring Y. After you pass T, T is like a cutoff. The letters past there, you don't see every day. Well, you don't see it too often. V, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, or Z. You don't see those too often. Does that work against them? I'm not sure. I think it depends. I think it does in the case of V.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it in the case of Q. I mean, we were talking about, yeah, Q and J. When you see him, kind of gives you a little smile. But, I mean, V, what's it worth in Scrabble? 8, 6? I mean, I gotta say, when I see a word with V, I don't get the same emotion that I get from the letter J.
Right? Like, it is a good letter. Right? I see V. I'm not complaining. I am not complaining, friend. But it doesn't give me that same rush of joy, like you said, like we said, when I see a J, when I see a Q, it's like just rare enough to hurt itself, right? If it were rarer, I'd like it more. If it were less rare, I'd like it more. It's in a bad position.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it. I think that if you were to compare it to something in lower mid, for purposes of putting it in mid or lower mid, because it's certainly not upper mid, and it's better than P, what do you think about it relative to F?
I think this is actually something B is deceptively close to F in lots of respects. Just sit there and think about that for a second. They are actually very similar letters. Right? There's a reason that the German V, which is called V, is pronounced F. Right? They are very close. Their sounds often mistaken for one another. Their rarity comparable. Are they worth the same number of scouting points, maybe?
Let's look it up.
Yeah. Like, my thoughts are.
V is 4, F is 4. Yep.
Yeah, they are. And you don't think about it like this, but they are very close letters, and I think they have to be the same tune.
I agree. F has its moments to shine, V has its moments to shine, but really, I think that on an average basis, which is really what we're trying to base this off of, they can't compete with these guys.
I know. W.
W. I think that if we were to compare the alphabets to music, W would be like jazz.
W. It is double wide, it cannot hide. It is W. I mean, it's the only polysyllabic letter in the English language, which is something right there. Right? There is something to be said about that.
I absolutely agree.
Like, W, we were talking about letters that you see them and you feel something, like J and Q. W, I think, has that same thing for me. You see a W, you cannot ignore that W.
The one thing about W is that I think it kind of contributes to the underrating of the H. I mean, if you think about all the letters where H is dwarfed, the most common ones are all W. I definitely think W cannot be in the same tier as H for that reason alone. But you were saying...
I think our feelings on W are the same as those on J and Q. You see W in a word, and it kind of pulls your attention a little bit. Because you're like, oh, there's a W here, right? You don't see those too often, right? For all the love we give to H and T, you see those pretty often, right? This is one of the things I think K does really well. K's got the same feeling as J, Q, and W. It just does it better, right? The feeling that you see that in a word, it draws your attention because you do not see that every day, and it is there for a reason. I think W does this really well too because it is so. It's got a presence to it. It's double wide. It's the big boy. It's the big boy.
It really is.
I think we have to put it upper mid.
Upper mid for sure. Yeah, definitely on the same scale as these guys. Definitely better than these. Way more flair, but it hurts H too much to really be placed in high, and it's just similar.
It's just a disservice to H if we put it high tier. We could still put it high tier. W is probably, in my opinion, the highest of the upper mids.
I would agree.
I just don't think it. I don't want to put it the same tier as H. H is just too overshadowed by W already.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's move on to X.
X. Marks the spot.
It does. I think this is just an easy mid.
I don't know. I think I'd have to agree. I mean, you think that X would give you the same sort of, JQW thing where, oh, when you see it, you kind of smile, but there are a lot of words that involve X, like the word exit, that just feels so mundane. It lacks that same sort of pizzazz that those three have.
Yeah, like the other ones, they command presence. X doesn't often do that. X, for all its rarity, gets often overshadowed, and I think that works against it a lot.
Yeah.
You see a word with an X, like excuse or exit, like you said, you don't even feel the X.
I know. I mean, when you
You
think about
know?
the JQW, we said that K is like those three, but it does it better. X feels the same thing, but it
X
does
is
it
like those three,
worse.
but it does it worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? It. I feel bad about this because, like I said, I feel bad about putting any letter this rare in the mid, but I think you gotta. You gotta. It doesn't. It doesn't do a good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like it's also a little stuck up with its rarity, right? You're trying to do an alphabet song, and you come to you're like A is for apple, B is for boat. You get to W, you're like you get your pick. You get to X afterwards. What are you doing? You're doing X-ray. You're doing xylophone. Those are your only options.
It really just hampers
It's
it from
just
its full potential.
yeah. If we saw it like I know we were talking about V. V is just slightly too common. X is just slightly too rare for its own good. I want to see more of it. I want to see more of it.
Mm-hmm. But really, I
And
think that,
it by itself in a place where it can shine.
yeah. But
But
for now, in
until we
its
get that
current
new status
usage,
in.
I don't think we can justify putting it any higher than mid. But of course, the rarity, that little smile factor, even though it's a little weaker, I think it does keep it out of lower mid.
Agreed.
All
I
right,
just
why?
until we see
Hmm?
more of it, we can't put it higher. Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
Why? I think the one thing I can say about it is that it tries. It really
Why tries
tries.
so friggin' hard, dude? And why does a lot? Why wears a lot of hats more than most letters? More than I think the only letters that wear powerful number hats are A, R, and H.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe E, but we don't want. But no, we
No,
don't
we're
want
not
to.
going to give you any more credit. Not
We're
necessary.
not
People
giving
already
any
know.
more credit. It has already been talked about way too much. But why? It's a constant. It's a vowel. It can carry the weight of most of the other vowels. Not A, of course. Not O. It can do the job. E and I can. Well, also it's got that y. Y. That's a fun sound when it's a consonant. In its consonant form, it is solid. In its vowel form, it is solid. You bring them together, you've got a good letter.
It's a good
It
letter, but
tries.
I feel like it lacks the panache that a lot of the, we think about A, that's a vowel with panache. Why? As a vowel, I don't see it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
very, very similar
like
to I. And I,
the issues like we were talking about. It does so much, but yeah, it does almost too much. You asked me to think of a vowel. My first thought is A.
of
If you ask
course.
me to think about why, I can't think of it as a vowel or as a consonant. It's too much of both. You ask me to list the vowels A, E, I, O, U. Oh, and sometimes Y.
And
Right? It's jack of all trades, master of none, and it holds it back. If it focused, because it's two stellar letters, right? The vowel form of Y, solid. The consonant form of Y, possibly better, but they're tied together, and I feel like that holds it back a little bit.
honestly, it feels to me kind of like the opposite of the whole situation with M and N, where because they're together, they kind of drag each other down. Y just feels like it's trying to be too many things at once. I think that
It's trying to.
if Y just focused on its consonant, it's so unique. It's got the Y. There's no other letter that does that. It's really special, but it doesn't do it
Yeah,
enough because it puts too much
yeah,
time into the vowel.
right. Exactly my thoughts. If we had a letter that was just Y, and anytime you saw a vowel form of Y, it was either I or E. Y goes upper mid at the lowest, but it's not. Like you're right. It's the opposite of M and N. M and N are two letters that are so similar they could probably could be combined, and no one would notice. They're so similar visually, sound wise. Like just yeah. Why is the opposite? It is two very different letters that someone stuck together, and it's holding consonant Y back.
Mm-hmm. But I
It
definitely think it's
hurts.
superior. It's a
It
much
hurts.
superior pair
It
to Eminem.
hurts to put it in mid. It
Yeah.
hurts to put X in mid. It hurts to put Y in mid because they try so hard, man, and they are
Well,
so underloved.
No, I think X is overloved. I think we talked about this. It
X is
kind
a
of,
little
it
overlooked.
kind of, it gets by
Why, man?
on
Why
its,
try so
yeah,
gosh dang hard?
it tries,
But
but
it's trying too hard.
it doesn't
Why
work for
try?
upper mid.
Doesn't work. And that gives us our final letter.
Z, or Z if you prefer, which I do.
Which you do. I think upper mid, right?
I don't know. I think that this is my time to actually kind of deviate a little bit and make my case for high tier. Because here's what I'm saying. I mean, this is where you would think it's going to go based on what we've been doing. I mean, we've been talking about how these letters, they're all worth a lot in Scrabble, they make you smile, but Z, it's literally the basis of the word pizzazz. I mean, it's just a letter with power, it's a letter with passion, it's really beautiful. I think it belongs in high tier because I think it's superior to Q. And here's why. Z is like Q. They're the only letters worth 10 points, right? But Z doesn't rely on other letters. It doesn't. It's fully independent. It can work in a vast array of situations. Xylophone, it's a cool word, but it's because X sounds like Z.
You can put Z in a word. You can't put a Q in a word. You put a Q in a word, it takes it.
Mm-hmm. It really does. It's a team
I
player,
agree.
Z.
Z. You could get a Z with another Z. Z's friendly. I think you've probably convinced me on this matter. Yeah, Z works. Z, you can get two Z's. Like you said, pizzazz. That's a word with three Z's. That word is mostly Z's.
Mm-hmm.
And it works, and it's so fun and flavorful. I think you've brought me over. It's it you see a Z, and you have the same reaction as when you see a J or Q or W. But Z, you're right. Z's friendlier. It's more welcoming. You can do more with it.
Mm-hmm. That's the opinion I've always held.
I think you've completely brought me over.
I tier it is.
I tier it is. All right. Looking at this tier list, is there anything we want to change?
Well, I think we did say we would come back and revisit I, because I think that we kind of came to the conclusion that I really lacks the effort that everything else in mid tier puts in, and we were going to consider maybe dropping it to lower mid.
I think we definitely talked about that because for all the hate we throw at D and E, those letters try. They do. They do. D is perhaps the hardest consonant we got, and I respect it for it. Maybe B is comparable, but B is just not a good letter. This is not a controversial opinion. B and C are the worst letters in the alphabet. But D, man, it tries. It is the hardest consonant. G, G likewise. E, for all the flack we give it, it does a lot for us. L, X, Y. We talked about these letters at great length. I don't do much.
Yeah, the only thing that kept it out of lower mid in the first place was, again, the double I. That's really cool. It's so unique. But is it enough to really put it on par with these guys who aren't giants, but they do what they do, and we got to appreciate it for it? I just, in general, like we said, we're considering average use case, so...
Yeah, I co-spy on its vowel reputation, and I think we put a stop to that here, right?
Moving into lower mid?
Moving into lower mid.
Yeah, I think I agree.
With this being said, do we want to potentially move any letters from lower mid to low?
Well, let's just go through that and think about what's the worst letter in lower mid.
It's O.
It's either O or U, to be sure. I would think it's O. We said that maybe vowels don't belong in low because we got to appreciate them for all the work that they do, and they're very simple, they're very sweet. O, I mean, it's goofy. That's what it is. It's not much of anything.
It's got that goofy charm to it.
Yeah, it really has a charm. I think it's significantly better than P. And yeah, I get that P is a little lonely and low tier, but it's better than B and C. Miles better. And lower mid, these guys, they're not that bad. Like we said, maybe they're a little bit overshadowed, or maybe they have a little bit of a flaw. But I mean, they have some charm. O, it has its moments. F, it has its moments. M and N, there's nothing wrong with them. They just kind of drag each other down. P, it's definitely a step below. I think that there's nothing here that really deserves to go to low tier.
Okay, so we've dealt with the mids. We're very firm on the upper mid to mid barrier, right? I don't think there's anything we could bring from mid to upper mid or vice versa. The only thing possibly is if we were to rethink our opinions on G or L, but no, those are staying mid.
Yeah,
So let's look at the top three tiers. Is there anything we want to change there?
these four I think are undeniably just the top tiers of the entire alphabet. I mean,
Undeniably tough.
undeniably top tiers, a step above this even. They're just so ubiquitous. They make every single word that they're in that much better. Kinda like H, but H gets overshadowed and it does hurt it for all the love we give it. It's just, these are absolutely top tiers, and I think that these are the high tiers. They're really solid letters. This one, it's really just a great letter, super special, so much personality. H does so much work, makes everything better. T, just a solid consonant that just barely doesn't make top tier. I think that that's high tier. I think that's what it means to be a high tier letter.
I think this tier list. I think this tier list is good.
I think it's objective fact. I think it's optimal. I think that this is the truth.
I think you're 100% right. Thank you guys so much for watching this tier list video where we ranked the alphabet. I know we might have espoused some very controversial opinions, and I know that what we said might hurt some people. It might ruffle some feathers, as we said going in. But to all of you who took the time to watch this video, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts and say thank you so much. And if you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe and hit that bell. It means a lot to us, because if you want to see similar content from us in the future, that is the best way to do it. And, just show your support so we know that we did something good here today. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone else.
And that's really the
Anything
goal
else
with
you
these
want to say
things,
before
right?
signing off?
Yeah. Yep. Signing off.
Signing off.